What is going on, everybody? Welcome to a special live show with the Investing Bros. Go ahead and go to my screen here. The reason why we are live is because Bitcoin has officially hit a brand new all-time high. We got a nice little orange line here. Way back here, January 20th of 2025. Bitcoin made its way all the way up to 109,358 on Coinbase. Now, depending on what exchange you're looking at, maybe not every exchange has hit a new all-time high. Maybe some exchanges hit new all-time highs this morning. But what I'm tracking right here on Coinbase today is within the last 30 minutes, Bitcoin has now hit a brand new all-time high here on Coinbase today is within the last 30 minutes. Tshroom. I think I got a nice echo going. There we go. All right. This is absolutely massive news for Bitcoin holders. By the way, if you guys were joining the last stream, I apologize. With us doing an impromptu quick live, there were some glitches with the link. So welcome in here. So glad to have you here. The big question on everyone's mind is going to be, now that Bitcoin's hit a new all-time high, what does this mean happens next? You guys know that we have been talking about for the last couple of weeks that Bitcoin had been overextended and looking for some form of pullback. In fact, we had a miniature little sell signal trigger just a couple of days ago on the daily chart. Well, with this recent pump, are we seeing a cancellation of that daily sell signal, or are we seeing a delay, a little bit of a manipulated move, a higher high come into action, and we're still looking at targets for Bitcoin to pull back all the way back down here towards 100,000? Be very clear is it's not 100% certain which one it's going to do. We're going to take a look at a lot of altcoins today. We're going to take a look at a lot of different things and what's happening, but I want to be very clear. This was a big thing stopping us from pulling back is as we got closer and closer to all-time high, the temptation to just go ahead and make that push was a major move here. I told be able to start before we actually got nice internet here this morning. Altcoin season will not be able to start before Bitcoin hit a new all-time high. Now that has happened, there's a whole lot of questions we got to ask on the table. We got to examine the charts and take a look at what's going on. We're going to spend this live show going through that, answer your questions. You can go off my screen here, Tshroom. By the way, today running the live stream, Smay is out, but we are going to be live here. Tshroom is here. Tshroom, how are you doing? How are you feeling with Bitcoin at a new all-time high today? Did you have this one on your bingo card? The morning of May 21st is your prediction for new all-time highs.
No, I took the advice of sell in May and go away, Tim. Just kidding. No, I wouldn't say that I predicted this day exactly, but you could kind of feel the bullishness coming back in. I mean, you have all these corporations that are starting their Bitcoin treasuries. It was only a matter of time before the demand exceeded the supply.
Yeah, this is a great thing. I will say we actually had some shorts yesterday, did not go well. Actually, we had a long that went really well, and we missed the liquidation on it. But this is going to be very fun to see how this one plays out, Tshroom. Very fun to see what is next. Now we got that out of the way. Here's the good news. We got that out of the way. People are wondering, would we ever hit a new all-time high again? You got your bears who've been screaming for months now. The top of Bitcoin was in. You're done. That's over now, right? We can go ahead and get rid of that. Now, I wonder how many people are taking profits on Bitcoin as we get back up, who maybe bought up there at $109,000 last time and are saying, finally, my opportunity, get out of this Bitcoin. It's time to move on and move on with my life away from Bitcoin. If you are that person watching right now, major mistake if that's your line of thinking. I think we still have a whole lot to go to the upside. The big question is going to be, do we pull back first? Do we shoot to 120K directly? Another one's going to be, what are we kind of replicating right now? If you go back to my screen, one of the reasons we've been looking for a pullback is saying, hey, we could see somewhat of a similar type of rally and move like we saw back in October, November of 2024, where you can see several times. Let me grab this. Open up my Lux toggle. Several times we pulled back touching the daily smart trail, right? Our expectation was that before the new all-time highs, we would see something similar. But as you can see, when you look at it, we have kept our distance from that daily smart trail. We've kept our distance from the other one, the one we've been telling you was more likely than the daily, the 12-hour smart trail should have been touched by this point it has kept its distance, refusing to make its way back to it. Now, someday, whether that's tomorrow, whether it's today, whether it's a month from now, whether it's 3 years from now, these smart trails will be revisited, right? There is going to be a pullback at some time. But I'm starting to wonder here, Tshroom, is this, not that we follow 4-year cycles really much anymore, but are we seeing maybe a similar type of move to what we potentially saw way back here before altcoin season, after some breakaways finally hitting a new all-time high here in December of 2020? Are we about to see a massive move on Bitcoin following what happened back in December of 2020, January 2021? And then, of course, altcoin season starting sooner, right there, about a month later after this move starts going. Are we going to see a similar period? This was my early days of being in Bitcoin. I'd only been involved for a little less than a year at this point. And the same thing was happening here, that after we had some touches of the daily chart, we just kept going up, 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 up. We had several reasons on the oscillators on the charts telling us we were overextended and needing some form of a pullback. Are we seeing potentially a similar move to what we saw back in December of 2020? Or was this, and I scroll back over, was this a triple top? Again, not that it has to be perfect, but this would be the third time we've reached this range up here towards 108. Are we going to see a triple top and that healthy correction back down to 100,000 first? Let me know in the comments really quickly. We're going to dive deep into the technicals. We're going to look at some news, what's driving this market right now. But do you believe that we are about to see a pullback now, or are we shooting straight to 120K? Something I mentioned yesterday. Let's bring this one back up here. Let's pull back up that M2 global money supply. Now, the chart I have here, I got to change it for a second because this one's 10 weeks. I like to look at it on the 12-week, a good 90-day or 3-month period of time here. I already saw someone in chat kind of mention this. We talked about it in our video yesterday. If this is true, like if we follow this to a T, which, again, you never follow these things to a T, but it would suggest we potentially could, if I zoom in here and I try to get it perfectly lined up for you guys, give me a second. There we go. I'll have to go lower here. This could be a local top that pulls us back down just a little bit before the rally. Or the question is, was this pullback the mark of this pullback? M2 money supply does say the next couple of days. This will not take long. Whether we pull back today and then have a nice V bottom and shoot back up, or we pull back tomorrow, my prediction is by the end of this week, we are shooting up once again, and we're looking to rally consistently, probably into mid-June. M2 not showing pullbacks for weeks. That's kind of what I'm looking at here too, Jojo Gunn. This is going to be the question. Is this little pullback here, if I were to change this a little bit, you can see on this same time frame, M2 money supply is saying a little small correction should be in place. Will we see that happen now that we've triple topped? We are pulling back a little bit at 108,500. Again, either way you slice it, whether we keep going up or we get a nice little pullback, it is saying here by the next couple of days, tomorrow, the next day, the next parabolic run should start, and we probably won't slow down until mid-June. That is if you subscribe to the M2 money supply theory that we're going to follow it to a T. You can go back and look at it. We don't do everything perfectly. For example, M2 money supply peaked way back in December. Of course, Bitcoin would go a little higher here in January. Even though there's a little bounce back up in the M2 money supply, it did not get anywhere near as high as what we had back here in December. It also was a couple days ahead. Bitcoin was a couple days ahead of that prediction. So it's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out. But before I dive deeper into the charts, make sure everybody smash that like button. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We're covering the live event now. We just hit a new all-time high on Bitcoin within the last hour. The question is, what is next? What do the charts say? What does the news say? Tshroom, I know we haven't had a lot of time to compile, but let's go ahead and do the best we can to take a stab at it. What are some of the big events happening today that are pushing this? I know one of the biggest ones, and I don't know if we have a tweet out on it yet, but that news coming out about Japan and their bonds going crazy. It's looking like the Japanese yuan is dying. A great reason for people to be swinging. If you hold Japanese currency, very good reason for you to have dumped that today and go buy some Bitcoin. Is it that simple, or is it more complicated than that? T-Shirt, what do you got for us in the news today?
I have not seen that Japanese headline. I may need to circle back on that. But yeah, this is the news we do. We are tracking a massive purchase of Bitcoin, ETF inflows, 1.2 trillion asset manager Blackstone different from BlackRock, discloses a 1.08 million purchase of BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF in its recent SEC filing. So that's pretty bullish. Got a big, new whale at the table. Also, Vivek Ramaswamy's Strive plan to acquire 75,000 Bitcoin. They're doing it by buying it at a discount from Mt. Gox. I don't know how this hasn't already been done. How aggressively folks like Michael Saylor have been looking at it. There's a Tesla headline. The robo-taxis should be hitting the roads in June in Austin. And then we talked about this one yesterday. The Bitcoin ETFs are seeing massive inflows over the past 5 weeks. There have been a net inflows of 6.6 billion across the Bitcoin ETFs. It's very historic. Now, what I will say this morning, Tim, I was actually looking into global bond markets. Maybe you can find that headline. I'm not sure if you'll be able to find it. But one thing is clear is that if the bond markets do start to become bad, right, illiquid, if a government stops being able to pay its bonds, I don't think it's going to start in the United States. I think if you look, I was talking with Grok about bond auctions is what I'm most specifically concerned about. I've been seeing headlines about bond auctions failing, and I wanted to get down to the bottom of it. Because, look, I'm not a bond trader. I don't know exactly what that means. If a bond auction fails, can't the Fed just step in or the Treasury step in and just buy the rest of the bonds that are available for that auction? It looks to me like the United States bonds auctions have been robust. They've actually been pretty good, but the yield on the 10-year does continue to climb. Whereas with Japan and I believe it was the UK, they have actually had some bond auctions that didn't completely fill. So it would be correct for the market to look abroad before it looked to US to start to see those cracks. We also had a pretty couple of disturbing events in the UK bond markets earlier last year. But Tim, have you been able to find anything about that?
Yeah, I was looking at it this morning. It was Kabesi letter. I like to check out Kabesi letter from time to time, covering a lot of macro news. He said here, another day, another surge in Japanese yields. The 30-year bond yield just rose 3.2%, officially putting it above 100 basis points since its April 7th low. 45% jump in Japanese yields in 45 days. This rate will be at 4% in June. That's, just absolutely crazy. Japanese bonds are just skyrocketing right now. Like I said, it is a big problem if you're holding a lot of Japanese coins right now. It is skyrocketing. But again, for anyone holding Bitcoin, very, very good news for us. But that's the headline I'm looking at there, Tshroom. Kind of that simple. Don't need to evaluate it much further. Crazy stuff here. Last thing from you. We'll get into the charts here, answer some questions. Last thoughts from you about what's making us move here.
Well, I do have some. I know you said you wanted to move on, but I do have some expanded thoughts on the bond market. I keep track of the 10-year for the Japanese bond, and you can see here we've actually seen higher levels than this back in late March of this year. We were all the way up. By we, I mean the Japanese 10-year was up to 1.6%. That's pretty high for them, right? Whereas now it's right around 1.5. That's their 10-year. If you look at the Great British 10-year, it's at 4.7. This one kind of tracks closer to the U.S., right? But this is unsettling, right? If you're someone who is a big bond trader, these yields are just going higher and higher and higher. And for those of you who may not understand bonds, which you can be forgiven for that, you didn't get into crypto to learn about bonds. If the yield is going up, that is a mechanism that is showing that the demand for those bonds is actually going down. So the government's saying, hey, we'll give you more interest for loaning us your money, and more, they have to increase that yield in order to entice people with money to say, here's my money, I will take your IOU with an interest rate. So yields going up, that might sound good. It's not. It's not good if you are the government, because you're having to pay a higher interest rate, and it also shows the markets that there's not a lot of demand for what you're selling. And what we're seeing in Japan is all-time highs on those yields.
Yeah, very, very crazy. Hey, real quick, Tshroom, take over for me. I need to go check on I have a sick baby in the house today.
Uh-oh.
And I got a call from my wife. She's not responding to my text. I just want to make sure everything's okay. But we'll be right back. Jump into some charts. Hopefully I'll be right back. Carried away. Look at some charts yourself, Tshroom, and tell everybody what you're looking at in the stock market on Bitcoin and what you're seeing.
All right, let's do it. Yeah, I'm going to go back over to the bonds, but don't worry, we'll get off the bonds here. I'm not gonna braid you over the head with the bond market. But to contrast this to the United States, we have, if we go back out to the weekly, you can see that we've had much more elevated rates than this back in the. I was actually looking at this earlier today, so it's kind of funny that this becomes relevant. Back in the 90s and certainly back in the 50s, it was just a different world, though. It was, these rates were 10%. That's the 10-year, right? Versus now we're belly aching about 4.4, as we should be, because it's basically impossible for someone to finance a $400,000 home in the United States, and that is based partially off of this 10-year rate and the federal funds rate. But yeah, let's jump into altcoins. Everybody wants to know if Bitcoin is shooting to the all-time highs here, getting up to 1087, all-time high here for the index. Let me go to the Coinbase exchange. This one has us up at 109, so 109,500. Very aggressive, and that is extremely bullish to see. But everybody wants to know, well, what is going to happen to altcoins? Are altcoins going to go to all-time highs now? That is certainly the question that I would be curious about. And Tim, I see that you're back. Just without even talking about any charts, with Bitcoin is hitting all-time highs, does that mean Ethereum's going to hit all-time highs and Cardano's going to hit all-time highs very soon? Is that how that works?
Not necessarily, but I'll tell you this, it's a good sign because of something we talked about earlier in the show. And if you guys are just joining us, welcome. We've been saying for weeks now that you should not be expecting a altcoin season until Bitcoin hits a new all-time high. Now, does that mean we are like hours away, days away? Not necessarily. Let's not get ahead of it ourselves just there yet. I think Bitcoin's going to need to substantially, hit a new all-time high before that happens. But it does make you start to feel better about altcoins. And the reason why is the psychology of this move. Why are we predicting that Bitcoin have to hit a new all-time high before the next altcoin season? The reason why is because Bitcoin's king of crypto. That's just plain and simple. Even during an altcoin season, even if the Bitcoin dominance starts to plummet back towards 50%, people still have that. The average person who's investing in crypto still is thinking stack Satoshis, right? There's just periods of time where it's way better to hold way more altcoins than there is times to hold Bitcoin. That's not the season we're in right now. But as Bitcoin hits a new all-time high, as the Bitcoin dominance is climbing again, we're back over 64%. We're at 64.2. I like seeing the Bitcoin dominance high because all of a sudden you're going to start to see people say, all right, I love Bitcoin. It's a great investment. But when I compare where Bitcoin is right now to the rest of the altcoin space, it might be time to maybe take some profits on Bitcoin and shovel all of that over into altcoins. Maybe not take profit on Bitcoin, but I got some extra dry powder. Well, Bitcoin's overbought right now. These altcoins are oversold. Where's my money better serving me? It's serving me better into altcoin space. So again, I still believe we're talking about probably 120K or higher before we actually get there. It's the psychology of it. At a certain point, whales, retail investors, even institutions who have been sitting on the sideline. And that's another one that is going to come in later this summer, I do believe. We're waiting for regulatory clarity. There's institutions that are buying Bitcoin right now and want to buy altcoins. They're waiting for some good reasons to. There's other institutions who are sitting on the sideline pretty much biting their fingernails saying, I have no approval from my board because I can't buy anything until clarity from how the U.S. government's going to, how they're going to regulate it. Wait for those to be another thing later. But overall, I think as long as Bitcoin is below all-time highs, the reason to hold anything other than Bitcoin wasn't really stretching people's brains. Now that we're at all-time highs, now they're starting to push. Now as Bitcoin dominance starts to climb up again, don't be surprised to see people slowly but surely start looking at those altcoins that are underperforming and saying, you know what? Right now, these are great fundamental projects that are oversold. I'm looking at the Chainlinks of the world. I'm looking at the Ondos of the world. I know there's some drama today. I don't know if this live shows we're going to get into all the details, but there's drama right now in the Cardano community where a crazy accusation was thrown out that Charles Hoskinson, the founder, stole $600 million worth of Cardano from the foundation. From what I understand, zero evidence of this. Charles Hoskinson said you can do an audit if you want to. This is a baseless accusation. It's a FUD thing. At the end of the day, here's what makes me comforted as a Cardano holder. And if you're a Cardano holder and you're reading that and you're saying, oh, what's this going to mean? Notice the Cardano price didn't really dip on that news. Cardano is oversold. A lot of times FUD articles here, I'll go to Cardano for you. A lot of times FUD articles like that come out before a major boom. So we're looking at all of these things. And again, Bitcoin, let me kind of go through this and just show you what charts look like. I'm an investor, right? I'm a whale saying, hey, I got $1 million to invest today. Where am I putting it? You got Bitcoin right here. And I'm not saying they're done with Bitcoin. It has a lot further to go to the upside before I think it slows down again. But I'm at new all-time highs. I'm matching these former all-time highs. I could go there. Ethereum looks intriguing. I'm still significantly down, not only from all-time highs, but even from recent cycle highs. I look at coins like Solana. I got significant room to the upside. I got Chainlink, significant room to the upside. Ondo, significant room to the upside. Cardano, significant room to the upside. SUI is one of the only ones that it's like, well, we're not at all-time high, but we are close there. I still think people pour a lot of money into SUI. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you SUI is dramatically oversold at the moment. It is one of the few altcoins that I would say is probably adequately priced at the moment. It will continue to trickle up, but you potentially could have a bigger explosive gain in some of these other coins that you hear the fundamentals of Ondo and Chainlink putting their fingers into everything that has to do with real-world asset plays, tokenization, and yet the charts just haven't exploded yet. That is a chart. This right here is a chart that a lot of people are going to start looking at here in the next couple of days, next couple of weeks, saying, wow, I could get Ondo really cheap. I can get Chainlink really cheap. Watch out for coins like that to explode. I might make a video later this week on my opinion on the best investments right now within the portfolio of wisdom we kind of help people with. My exact portfolio is put over into our Discord where people can see it. But if you guys watch our content, if you're subscribed to the channel and you hear us talk on a weekly basis, you can probably get a very good idea of what our portfolios look like. We're not good secret keepers, right? We're pretty open and honest about what we like and what we don't like and where we're putting our money. But I'll make a video later this week where I kind of go through different coins that you guys will know are in my portfolio and tell you my thoughts. Is this coin overbought? Is it oversold? Is there big gains left in it for the next couple of weeks? Or is this one to maybe say, hey, let your current portfolio ride. No reason to add to it right now. But that's what I'm tracking right now, Tshroom. I know it's a complicated question, but altcoin season will start because ultimately Bitcoin is overbought. Altcoins are oversold. It's simple mathematical equation of saying I want to make money. There's only so much more money I can make in Bitcoin. There's a lot of money I can make in altcoins. That's when altcoin season will start.
Yep. And one thing I'd like to point out on the charts here is if I go to Bitcoin on the daily, this is actually a different time frame than weekly. So you can look at charts in different ways. One of the ways is by looking at different time frames. So when Tim says overbought, one way to determine is an asset overbought is to look at an oscillator, whether it be the oscillator matrix or the MACD. If I look at the MACD, historically, this is actually not that overbought. You can see that we reached levels on the MACD up here to 9,000, 8,000, and then back here in the previous bull market, right around the same levels, 9,000. So in fact, that signal line got quite a bit higher than the signal lines we've seen so far. Another indication that this bull market is definitely not over. But what this does tell me is that Bitcoin has room to run. And so altcoins, it might have to wait a decent amount longer. If I look at the Lux Algo oscillator, and again, I'm on the weekly charts here. You may not be looking at the weekly charts all that often if you're a day trader or if you're just kind of a novice looking at the daily chart all the time. But there's a decent amount of daylight here that Bitcoin can explore before it gets into these levels where historically investors and traders have said, okay, now Bitcoin's actually oversold. I'm going to either rotate into alts, I'm just going to go back into stables, whatever it might be. But there's a strong argument to be made. They're looking at the weekly chart. Bitcoin is not oversold yet.
100%. Now, I want to make sure we're clarifying something. The top of the bull market more than likely will have something called bearish divergence. If anyone is new here, I'm assuming we got a lot of family in today, right? A lot of subscribers, a lot of you guys haven't watched our content, but if you're new, welcome. I encourage you to smash that subscribe button, join with us. We're putting out videos almost every single day. We have a private Discord where we're talking every single day about the news and the price action. You found a great community to learn about the crypto space. What Tshroom said here, going back to my chart, very, 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 very good thing to keep an eye on. Let me minimize the other oscillators, just to kind of focus on the MACD. He's 100% right. And we've seen even within this bull market, the MACD has made its way up over 9,000 twice. It did it back here at a local top in April. You guys can see here when we hit 72,000, nice local top. It did it again here in December when, even though we went a little higher in January, we topped out there December, January, made a nice pullback. It doesn't mean we have to get it back up there again. Let's go back to the all-time high set back in November of 2021. You're going to see it actually only made its way towards 57, okay? That's not significant. Don't take what we're saying in this video and say, oh, they're saying that if we hit 9,000, that automatically means we're going to reverse, or we have to wait for 9,000 to automatically reverse. And I'm also not saying that when we get back up towards 59 or 6,000, that all of a sudden we're repeating 2021 and going back down. My point is, this is called divergence. So you'll see that in March, April of 2021, the first peak in that bull market, we made our way, guess where? Up here, actually above 9,000, made our way all the way to 10,000. Right? So that's what I'm saying. You don't pay attention to the exact numbers. The detail is the heights here. In November, after a nice summer correction in 2021, we made a slightly higher high in price action going, in March and April, we were at 65. In November, we went to 69. We put in a lower high, though, in the MACD. This set up some bearish divergence. It was one of the indicators we kind of were watching and saying, all right, that's, in hindsight especially, that is the mark of a top movement. A large time frame's bearish divergence on the MACD is something to be aware of. What that means is we absolutely could see the MACD shoot back up to 9,000. We could see the MACD go higher, 11, 12. We could see the price of Bitcoin shoot crazy high during this time period. The other thing to keep an eye on, though, and again, this is why you follow the charts daily, because you never know when things like this will pop up. What happens if potentially, again, Bitcoin shoots up here? Let's say Bitcoin shoots up towards 120, then 140, then 175, and then has a little bit of a correction, right? A little bit of cool off. Cool offs don't mean the bull market's over. It just means, hey, people are taking profit. They're maybe entering a couple small term shorts, trying to pick up some cash for the next leg. But at the same time, the MACD maybe only makes its way up towards 8,000 and puts in a lower high. All of a sudden, you have this bearish divergence. This is not a minor pullback. All of a sudden, this one, I would say, you're starting to say, all right, we could have a significant pullback here. Kind of like at least back here where we had a bearish divergence back in July 2024. Let me pull up the Luxalgo indicators here so you guys can see that very clearly. Higher high in price action, lower high in the oscillator action. Guess what? Bitcoin would go on to have itself a nice 30-something% cool off, 33% cool off. Some of you guys called it a bear market. Some of you said it's not quite a bear market. At the end of the day, what I want to know, my biggest takeaway is, when should I be taking profit? When should I be expecting larger pullbacks to happen? And one of them is going to be when we start to see weekly bearish divergences again on the MACD, on the RSI, on the Luxalgo oscillator. Those are reasons to take profit. Wait for a cool off. Wait to see how the economy and everything is looking as a whole from a macro perspective. But right now, there's nothing telling us we're in danger. There's nothing telling us that we're stopping right here. Everything is showing us reason to believe that Bitcoin is ready to make another explosive move up when you're looking at these larger time frames. That being said, Tshroom, keep your eye on the chat while we jump into some deeper technical analysis here. We are here to discuss what is next for Bitcoin, what is next for altcoins. I'm going to start off with Bitcoin, and I'm not about to tell you what I think definitely is going to happen. Let's be very clear here before we get in the charts. I'm not going to be able to predict perfection here, but what I will do is tell you what the charts are saying. And I want to start off here on the daily chart. The weekly chart, as Tshroom just said, a lot of bullishness ahead of us. No reason to suspect any type of pullback coming. In fact, the weekly chart has its eyes with some take profits up here at 120K. Okay, so that's what you should know. Weekly chart, not bearish, still pushing upwards. A lot of good signs there. Let's go take a look at the daily chart, though, where, again, if you guys have been watching our channel, we were monitoring a couple of bearish calls here. We had bearish divergence. We had a red reversal, negative momentum, and negative money flow on the daily chart. That is an historic sell signal that does usually work out. The last time we had this sell signal, you'd have to go back here to February 1st. This February 1st date was right before a major fall in Bitcoin price action. Some of you remember that date, some of you don't. At the end of the day, all you need to know is this bearish call, the last time it happened, the last couple of times it happens, has brought a strong correction. To pair with this, we also have very slight, but still there, bearish divergence on the daily chart. Okay, what do I mean by that? Well, we're going higher highs and higher lows here, but we're putting in lower highs on the RSI. And this is going to be something that you should not ignore. I'm not saying that we 100% have to correct now at this point, but it's something that I want to make sure people are aware of. And if we start to correct what we need to see, let's not say want, what we need to see here to feel better at this is if we close a blue candle in the next couple of days, whether we close it right here around 109, whether we go a little bit higher towards 112, 115, heck, even 120, right? Can we close a couple of blue candles with lower highs on the oscillators? All of a sudden, you're really feeling strongly about a pullback, at least to the smart trail of the daily chart, where currently we're coming in here around 100,000. The good news for you guys, though, is it's still climbing. My guess is by the time we would meet it, we probably are closer towards 103, 105. We got some major liquidations kind of coming in this camp. If you go to lower time frames like the 4-hour chart, very bright liquidations that would make sense for us to come back and pull. Man, I got a little lower here towards the 1-hour chart. Forgive me, everybody. We were looking at this morning in our group. Oop, didn't want that marker there. There we go. We got some bright here at 105. We got some bright stuff here at 104 and some stuff here around 103, right? So don't be surprised if that's actually the target that we're watching when we talk about pullbacks coming. But as a whole, that is going to be something on the daily chart. We are marking the very beginning signs of a correction coming. And with the all-time high now being here, you want to be very aware of it. I would say if you were in long positions, it's probably a wise position. If you're long position trading, probably a wise position to take at least some profit. I mean, not all profit, but some profit on your positions. You don't want to get brought back down and miss out on that. What you want to do here is look for any dip you can get to buy, because what we are watching happen right now, confirming, and again, I think this has been confirmed for weeks, but we're watching further confirmation that the bull market is here. The bull market is ready to explode. Davey Cakes just gave a super chat saying he's still predicting 146,000 in July. You know what? At this rate, the way we're moving, even with a stern correction that I think will happen, that still looks like a very heavy likelihood that Davey is going to be right. 146 by July is absolutely on the table. Not a guarantee, but on the table. What's going to concern me a little more, we were looking at here a second ago when I was on the 1-hour chart. Let's go to the 4-hour first, but then I want to take a look at the 1-hour chart. Anytime you see a big volume candle, you want to be aware of what this is saying. So massive white candle here on the 4-hour chart, massive volume histogram coming in here down on the bottom. We haven't seen this level of volume in one candle since going all the way back here to April 25th. Well, what happened on April 25th? Well, it was a little local top. There was a little bit of a correction and a pullback when that happened. Why? Because sometimes this volume can indicate that it's an exchange where people have been buying. Well, all of a sudden, this candle high volume comes in because the mixture of buying and selling is causing the volume to be crazy high. This also makes sense because I guarantee you that people had some sell signals, take profit signals, right at former all-time high that probably all just got triggered. This is a little more amplified when I go down to the 1-hour chart, where now you can see where was the volume coming in. Because on the 4-hour, it's kind of confusing. On the 4-hour, you're just matching up a high volume with a big candle. That could be confirmation. That could just be a lot of buying. The 1-hour gives me some more information here. Guess where the biggest amount of volume came in at? It actually came in right here at 11 o'clock as people were selling. How do I know that? Because the high volume is matched with what we call an indecision candle, a very small blue candle body with higher upper and lower wicks, meaning a lot of buying and a lot of selling, ultimately coming out to just about net neutral is what caused this massive spike in volume. Okay. So that is something to be aware of. Once again, am I promising you? Am I guaranteeing you that means we're pulling back now? No. But I am saying that clearly there are a lot of people selling. If we cannot get more volume to come in here to break through this orange line and start closing higher, all of a sudden the likelihood of some form of a stern correction begins to increase. The 1 hour chart giving us targets similar to some of those liquidation levels, targets back down here towards 105, maybe even as low as 1045. Okay, so that's what the 1 hour chart is saying right now. Now, I say all this, I was in a short yesterday. Did not necessarily work out because I shorted right in here and I got liquidated as we made this bigger move. If I had just been a little more conservative, a little more aggressive, put my stop loss a little higher, it would have worked out. But the bulls are running through the bearish indicators like it's crazy. The concept here, though, and my concern is, were they running it through just to hit this brand new all-time high, and now they want some form of a stern correction? So make sure to monitor your charts, give your own opinions on this. Make sure you're learning the technical analysis to give your own take here, because I wish I could tell you 100% which way we're going here. I think the likelihood is a pullback. But again, I thought the likelihood back here was a pullback. And the bulls just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And you have to be prepared for something like that to happen. Make sure if you set a short here, you're not a dumb person if you're shorting Bitcoin right now. But make sure your stop loss is conservative. Make sure you're not giving yourself just a bunch of room, because if this party gets going again, if the bulls start running again, we could go nuts all the way up to 120K before the next major level of resistance. So be prepared for that. What I would suggest to you guys, though, if you're newer, maybe you're sitting here saying, Tim, everything you just said was very confusing. I don't know what to do. It actually makes me a little scared. Here's my non-financial advice for everybody. Just buy dips. This is a good season not to worry too much on shorting. Let people who are more experienced with more risk management handle the shorting for you. You just say, all right, here's what's going to happen. I already own Bitcoin. I'm not going to sell it right now. I'm going to let this Bitcoin ride. If we get pulled back to 105,000, I'm buying more Bitcoin. If I get pulled back down to 103,000, I'm buying more Bitcoin. Heck, if we get back down to 100,000, I'm buying more Bitcoin. That's your scenario here. If you want to take a little bit of profit just in case to create some dry powder, be my guest. But not everyone should be shorting right now. Some people have been shorting for the last couple of weeks and been getting liquidated left and right. Sometimes some of you guys need to just buy and hold and watch the charts for those longer term sell signals that will pop up. Right now, again, we have sell signals on the 1 hour. We have sell signals kind of starting to form on the daily chart. But on the weekly chart, if your perspective was, Tim, I was planning to hold this to the top of the bull market anyway, there is nothing on this weekly chart telling you that this bull market's over, that it's time to sell. In fact, everything is saying we got a long way to go to the upside. But that is what you need to be aware of what's happening right now on the Bitcoin chart. Don't be surprised to see a pullback back down towards 105 to 103 over the next couple of days now that a new all-time high is hit. With that said, let's start to take a look at some other altcoins that people want to be aware of. Let's start off with the queen of crypto. If Bitcoin's the king, Ethereum's got to be the queen. What is Ethereum saying right now? As we go out to the weekly chart here, similar to Bitcoin, we have a recent bullish MACD cross. Great perspective. We have another buy signal here. We had one weeks ago way back in September. We have a very good buy signal on the weekly chart right now in Ethereum, the green reversal, bullish momentum, positive money flow. We have targets for Ethereum on that weekly chart, at least back up above $3,000. But realistically, I think these are the types of buy signals that say, hey, resistance in the red cloud is the one to watch. So we're actually talking about maybe pushing back towards $5,000 for Ethereum, back up towards new all-time highs that we hit way back in November of 2021. So bull market perspective-wise, Ethereum, it's bullish. It's got a long way to go to the upside. Let's trickle down. Let's see what the charts are saying on some lower time frames. For example, the daily chart, where Ethereum, of course, last week or a week and some change ago, had a big rally. There was all these videos on YouTube and all these posts on X saying Ethereum is back. Altcoin season is back. We were one of the few people that said, hey, not so fast. There's a lot of stuff that has to happen before altcoin season comes. But Ethereum made an impressive run. What this does, though, is it puts it in danger of being overbought, and a correction, maybe at least back down here towards 2,200, should be under consideration. Let's see what the daily chart is telling us here today. You can see we had a very clear bearish divergence back here. It does look like the MACD is heading for a bearish cross by the end of today or maybe tomorrow. So unless I'm starting to see some major bullish signs on lower time frames, Link, it actually is showing me the bearish signals, unlike Bitcoin, who's kind of faking out of them. When it comes to Ethereum on the Lux Algo oscillator, we had the red reversal. We have the bearish momentum. We had negative money flow. Now, today, you can see as I zoom in, the money flow is flowing slightly back up. So that's going to give you a small pause. I do think, though, the fact that the MACD is bearish, the fact the RSI is cooling off, we have that bearish divergence. I'm still leaning towards a correction here for Ethereum. Again, especially if Bitcoin corrects. There's no way Bitcoin's correcting. Ethereum's going to just chill where it's at. But there is some signs that we could ignore the bearish sell signals. But there are sell signals from every oscillator here on Ethereum saying that we should be making a move to the downside. Let's keep going down here. Let's take a look at the 4-hour chart and see what its oscillators are telling us here for the next little bit. Definitely getting back towards, well, no, I was about to say getting towards overextended. We're not. The MACD's in the middle. The RSI is barely above the middle. Even the Lux Algo, even though it's a little higher than the others, it's still got a lot of room to the upside. So our 4-hour signal is really kind of not giving us a lot of information. What I'm going to be actually interested in here is the Bollinger Bands. Very constricted Bollinger Bands here on Ethereum. That means a bigger move probably is on the way. It's going to be even more constricted if I go down towards this hourly chart, I would imagine. Yes, absolutely. It's very constricted here on the 1-hour chart. Bollinger Bands is an indicator that is kind of predicting when we're going to have some extreme volatility. This would suggest extreme volatility is on its way. But let's check the 1-hour chart where Bitcoin told us a lot. The 4-hour charts aren't giving us that much information whatsoever. I would say here on the 1-hour chart, we're neutral here. Ethereum's actually not telling us much on that 1-hour chart. I would say support back down here towards 2,400 and then resistance probably up here back towards 26. Let's look at liquidations and see, man, Ethereum's chart just is not telling us a whole lot on these lower time frames. There we go with some $2,300 levels. If we make a spike back up, there we go. That's what I wanted to see. Big level of liquidity. There's some liquidations up here at 26.55. So if you start to make a push, again, with that neutral 4-hour, with that neutral 1-hour, all of this staying below the recent highs on the daily chart, so it has no impact on the daily chart. Ethereum ranges here really could make its way back up towards 2,600. But if I'm right about those sell signals, we're more than likely making our way back down towards 23, 22, clearing out these liquidations over the next couple of days for Ethereum. I would kind of watch that red box right here. I think we made this box a couple of days ago, if not a couple weeks ago. It was actually a couple of days ago. Still seeing that daily chart. That's where the smart trail is starting to creep up and get into that zone. We got a fair value gap right in that zone. I'm going to continue to monitor this zone. There we go. Breaker block as well in the 12-hour chart. 23 to 2,200 for Ethereum. Still my zone of saying that's where I'm waiting to get my next buy signal on Ethereum. And as Bitcoin's climbing and going crazy, Ethereum's kind of just dragging its feet. This is not an altcoin season. It's not Ethereum season. This is Bitcoin season right now. And Ethereum overextended just like Bitcoin. Correction more than likely on the table. But again, what's my advice? What's my non-financial financial advice? Let the more experienced traders short. Let the people who have a way and have higher risk management skills, let them short. If you're holding Ethereum, let it ride. If you can get a hold of a $2,200 Ethereum and you got some dry powder and you don't feel like you have enough, go ahead and buy up some Ethereum at 2,200. That's my best advice to you. Bull market very far away from ending. Let's take a break here from altcoin TA for a second. We'll probably jump into more, but Tshroom, what are your thoughts right now? Anything breaking while I'm talking? We got a nice super chat here from Eric Wallen. We'll read in a second. But anything happening while I was doing that technical analysis that people should be aware of?
Yeah, nothing breaking that I'm seeing here. Just all the updates are on the charts as prices shoot higher. But I'm just thinking to myself, just trying to get my head around the bond market because this could be a moment. I mean, look, this year we've seen gold hit all-time highs, right, and then just keep going. That now we're seeing Bitcoin hit all-time highs and just keep going, and we're seeing bond yields going higher and higher, and in the case of Japan, all-time highs. You really should see when assets like Bitcoin and gold are pushing higher, you really should see those bond yields going lower, right? You also should see the stock market going lower. So there's really a kind of a tricky puzzle for traders to try to piece together, traders that are in the equity markets, to figure out what the heck to do. Do I jump ship and sell Microsoft and Tesla and Nvidia and just go into Bitcoin and maybe gold as well, or do I stay put? But these bond yields are a little bit troubling. Now, luckily, we have somebody at the helm in the United States that a lot of Wall Street, sympathizes with. Trusts could be another word you use in Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, also Donald Trump. There's and Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary. These are names that Wall Street knows, likes, and trusts to most extent, right? Of course, there's going to be exceptions to that. So you do have to think that it is under control. But I guess what I'm thinking is this could be the moment where there has to be, if these interest rates just keep running away, then there may has to be some kind of intervention. The United States had to bail out the banks. Right, that has happened. They had to bail out the stock market. Right, we saw that during COVID. The bond market has never been bailed out. Right, and that would be kind of the end if there was that type of an event. Not saying that that's going to happen, and I pray to God that does not happen in our lifetime. Would Bitcoin go higher? Probably. Would gold go higher? Yes. But I don't want to live in a world, or let me say this, I'm not prepared, and if you're listening to the sound of my voice, you're probably not prepared to live in a world where the 10-year starts to shoot up, and that's not good. That's the foundation of the world around us from a financial perspective. Would there be, a resolution on the other end of that chaos? Of course, and I would believe that it would disproportionately benefit altcoins and cryptocurrencies. But you never know, right? And there would be a transition period that'd be very difficult. So that's what's on my mind, Tim.
Yeah. And you're talking about bonds as a whole. We're on our way in the United States, right? The dollar, if you're sitting here saying the dollar's looking pretty, the dollar's doing great. No, the dollar's on its own war path towards dying. Is the people of Japan you're worrying about today, right? The people of Japan, they're going to have to make some adjustments quick. They're going to need some leaders who make some brave and some risky moves, right? But at the end of the day, when you're backed up into a corner, you can't be conservative anymore when you've been backed into a corner, right? There's a lot of people who have tried, a lot of governments and entities have tried to stay conservative, right? Even there's that concept that the Arizona governor here a couple weeks ago didn't want to sign into law a Bitcoin reserve where they purchase Bitcoin, right? They ended up passing that anything they had confiscated currently they'd hold, but her reasoning was pretty much like, oh, this is just too risky of a play for the people of Arizona. Something similar has been done by countries in the EU, countries saying, oh, it's too risky to get involved in this Bitcoin thing. It's too volatile. And it's like, you know what? Play the conservative game. But I'm watching your currency go down in value every single year. I'm watching crypto have some bear markets, but overall go up in value. And it's going to be the countries like El Salvador, like Argentina. And now we're watching countries like the United States. We're hearing rumblings from countries like China, rumblings from countries like Russia, even India, historically one of the countries that banned and said that Bitcoin was terrible, now changing it all up and saying we don't need to ban Bitcoin, we need to regulate Bitcoin. We're watching some countries soften and say, you know what, the future of wealth is Bitcoin. These countries are going to succeed. The ones that play the conservative game and say, too risky for us, we'll stick with our fiat currency, they're going to get left behind in the new world. So pray for Japan. Pray for the people of Japan. They didn't ask for this. It's not the people of Japan's fault that their currency is getting crazy devalued. It's bad decisions made by government leaders. And hopefully it's remedied in a way that solves their people. But again, as a whole, last thing I'll say, Tshroom, good. Yeah. I know you have a report here. Bad as it is for Japan, crypto holders, it's great for you. Anytime a large fiat currency collapses like this, that value now is going to go into gold. It's going to go into Bitcoin, and it's going to go into altcoins. And you guys are going to make a lot of money. So, sorry, Tshroom, go ahead and take it away.
No worries. I think that was good. You might ask the question, well, if there's so much turmoil, why doesn't the Bank of Japan just cut rates? Well, they can only cut rates by 50 basis points at this point in time. Yeah. Their federal funds rate, or their interest rate, as tradeeconomics.com calls it, is already at 0.5. Right? They've only had 2 hikes since they had zero. They actually had negative interest rates at one point. Whereas the United States, you can see we came up to 4.5. We actually went up a little higher than that, I believe, and then we came down a little bit. Right? Actually, I have it pulled up here. I might as well show you. We came up to 5.3, I think, and then we have come down after the jumbo cut in September of 2024, followed by 2 subsequent 25 basis point cuts. But the Japanese, they don't have much ammo left, right? They do have 2 cuts that they could theoretically do, but the problem that they're having in Japan is not even necessarily going to be remedied by cuts, because the yield are exceeding their federal funds rate, their central bank interest rate. That means that there's not enough demand for the bonds. That's a problem. You need demand for bonds because that's your citizenry, and that's money coming into your treasury so that you can build roads, repair hospitals, pay state employees. If nobody's willing to buy the bonds, even as those interest rates go sky high and the incentive goes sky high, that's structurally concerning, one might say. So
there we go. Well, let's transition here. We got a super chat from one of our long-term members, Eric Wallen. Cool. Love Eric. Have not seen him in here too much recently, but I know life gets busy. He said, Tim, do you notice that MicroStrategy has been lagging ever since the other Bitcoin treasuries have been out? I think one of the biggest ones he's talking about probably is that 21 company. I've never looked at that chart. Tshroom, what's the ticker for 21 company?
CEP.
CEP, that's right.
There's a good time to talk about this because I made a move with that yesterday.
Yeah. All right. So let's pull up the CEP as well. I'm going to move this under MicroStrategy. But what he's talking about here, you can look at this MicroStrategy. It has bounced up, right? We're bouncing since early April, same as Bitcoin. But what he's kind of mentioning here, let's take a look at this period of time. Both Bitcoin and MicroStrategy bounced back here early in April, right? So we're on track that level. But then something kind of changed back here on May 8th. We have not gotten back above those May 8th highs. Let's see it here. Is that candle May 8th? Yeah, May 9th. We'll call May 9th. What was Bitcoin at May 9th? Bitcoin came in here around 104,000. You can see Bitcoin has continued to climb. Of course, today we're hitting new all-time highs. MicroStrategy lagging. Not that it's not bullish. I mean, these are 3 white daily candles in a row, right? So MicroStrategy is not losing money, but it's not making the same parabolic run that Bitcoin's making at the moment. And in the past, the reason why this could be concerning, I think Eric brings up a valuable point. I think concerning is a strong word, but something that people should be aware of is that MicroStrategy has a way of outperforming Bitcoin's chart because it's almost like leveraged Bitcoin. I mean, in this period of time, you saw Bitcoin was pulling back last summer. MicroStrategy just traded sideways. MicroStrategy between here at the bottom of, September, up to this top in November, right? We saw a 375% rally in MicroStrategy. And Bitcoin, you only saw, and a keyword here is only because it's still pretty good, you only saw 105%, right? So MicroStrategy has a way of outpacing Bitcoin, being more performative than Bitcoin. I will say this would not be the first time it went away. Of course, Bitcoin kept climbing into December and, of course, January. MicroStrategy, of course, topped out in November with lower highs in December and January. But it is something to be aware of. There are other kids playing on the playground now. It's not just MicroStrategy. I'm going to let Tshroom give more of a take here, but SEP, you look at SEP, it is performing well. Not necessarily today, got a little bit of blue candle coming in here today, but the last couple of days as Bitcoin's been rallying, SEP is going berserk. But for more on that, because he's been following this chart a whole lot more, Tshroom, what are your thoughts right now with SEP versus MicroStrategy? Any thoughts you would have for the people on who maybe want to invest in the stock side of Bitcoin?
So I sold SEP yesterday. I sold a lot of my SEP CEP, which is going to be XXI. I sold it because it's just very volatile, and I was up on it quite a bit, so I went ahead and just took profits, right? If I go over to my screen, I can kind of share a little bit of the logic here. SEP got all the way up to basically 60, and then came back down. This was a pretty significant drawdown. I held through it about 50%, and then I picked up more right around in here at 33. So, my bags were pretty heavy at this point to be in something so volatile and correlated to Bitcoin when I'm already so exposed to Bitcoin price action. Experienced investors will understand what I'm talking about. So I just went ahead and took profits. Where I'm going to rotate, probably back into spot Bitcoin. Maybe use that liquidity to buy something like Ethereum or Solana, kind of a high cap sure thing for this next altcoin movement and leg up. But yeah, I mean, this is just there is now. Eric Wallen, I think, brings up a good point that there is growing uncertainty right now. The Bollinger Bands are widening on the uncertainty of what is going on with these treasury companies. There will be a period, probably by the end of the summer, where there's a normalization of what the market should do. Should they buy these new treasury companies? Should they buy Bitcoin? Or should they stick with the company that's way ahead, MicroStrategies? But make no mistake, there is now competition. Tim, you said it well. Like, there's other kids on the playground now, and MicroStrategy is no longer the only one there. And CEP is a big competitor. Why? Because it has three major backers. Cantor Fitzgerald, which is Howard Lutnick's company, right? More complicated than that, the ownership structure, but, and he's the Commerce Secretary under Trump. Tether, okay? Tether's a pretty big, maybe you've heard of it. It's the second largest stable coin, okay? They finance things like this. They're getting involved in this. And then the third one, I believe, is SoftBank, which SoftBank, if you're in crypto only, you may not have ever heard of SoftBank, but it's big, right? It's big, and they've had a lot of success. So there's a lot to be excited about on the landscape of Bitcoin treasury companies. There's also a lot of kind of theorizing that if these companies just keep going into more and more debt and kind of leveraging their exposure to Bitcoin, eventually something's going to go wrong, not necessarily with Bitcoin, well, not with Bitcoin, but because they get overexposed and maybe there's a big correction in Bitcoin to be able to liquidate those companies. I don't know. That's above my pay grade to know if that type of a thing is going to happen. But at some point, there is going to be a normalization, meaning the market is going to price differently these assets, pre and post SPAC when it comes to CEP to XXI. But there's like 80 companies now around the world. And so it's going to take some time for the market to say, okay, now we understand how to trade this. We understand the dynamics between, what the debt to equity ratio should be for these companies and how much Bitcoin they hold. And then there will be a normalization. But right now, investors who are smart, investors who understand Bitcoin and stocks have a big opportunity because there's a big gap between people who understand how these stocks should be traded and people who don't. So there's opportunity there, right? And the answer isn't necessarily just by MicroStrategy because it's way ahead and it's going to dominate. The answer could be by one of these smaller companies, one of these smaller treasury plays, because it has so much further to go up. But and then the Bitcoin miners are still part of that conversation as well. So good question, Eric Wallen.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how those ones play out. Drop a 1 in chat if you guys own either one of those stocks that are kind of pretty much, again, leveraged Bitcoin plays. Before we let people go here, we're going to wrap up in a second. I want to go and check out one altcoin that a lot of you guys hold, a lot of you guys love. It has been doing its own thing here recently, and that is SUI. I want to check on the charts here. We were talking about this in our VIP trading group, but I'm going to go ahead and drop some alpha here for you guys. There's a very bullish formation in play here on SUI. SUI's been doing things similar yet different than how Bitcoin is. And what we're seeing happen right now on lower timeframes is a breakout. I told our group this morning, hey, if we can get this sustained breakout, that we have a big target here for SUI, up over $4 for certain. But this falling channel right now, if it ends up playing out here for SUI, and we have every reason to believe it will at least play out this far, if not go higher, we got target right now for SUI to get back up here to $4.35 if this continues this way. Again, when I say back, I'm kind of speaking roughly there. Do we get to 435? Okay, we were. I want to make sure. We did. We got all the way up to 5 something here way back in December. But that's just the beginning. I wanted to point that out to you guys, though, as you're watching and looking for something to trade. SUI with a big reason to potentially go that high. By the way, some other things to be aware of when you're looking at SUI. Remember we kept talking about bearish signals? Well, the MACD did cross bearish here not that long ago, but we're starting to get some positive money flow and positive momentum there on the daily chart. When it comes to lower time frames like the hourly chart, we actually could arguably even say we got a buy signal right now for SUI, and Lux Algo has some indicators up here suggesting, again, 422. I think that's kind of similar to the zone we said. We went a little higher, 430. 432 could be, or 422 could be on the radar there. Let's get the 4-hour chart here. Yeah, red cloud coming in here, back up here towards 430. That's what I would be keeping an eye on right now. On that 4-hour chart, remember we said Bitcoin and Ethereum were kind of neutral. This is one you actually have a buy signal. Green reversal, bullish momentum, positive money flow flowing here. And those signals, again, starting at 425, could even go as high as 450 before it's all said and done. So SUI looking very, very good now for a move back up above $4 again. It's almost there. It's at $3.99, but watch out for that one. That's a coin that I would say, like most altcoins, I would tell you, you just about could watch the Bitcoin chart to know when to buy and when to sell. SUI will have it'll do its own thing from time to time. And so that's something to absolutely keep your eyes on right now for SUI. We have broken above some major resistance. That 4-hour smart trail, that descending level resistance, all of this suggesting the red cloud up here is going to be something to watch. Order block coming in here at 425. So watch out for that on SUI. Guys, that's going to be all we have for you in this video. Bitcoin at a new all-time high. What's next? You guys let us know in the comment section. No matter what happens, though, whether we correct first or shoot to 120, the bull market's here, and it's not time to be, running away. It's not time to be just tuning out of the videos. You need to be watching every single day. Stay tuned to the charts. Stay tuned to the news. You're going to make a whole lot of money in this bull market if you stay locked in and you continue to budget to buy dips. We're not done buying crypto. That day will come. We'll let you know when it's time to go ahead and start taking profits rather than buying. But there's no way you're going to know that unless you stay around with the Bros community. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Make sure you smash the like button. Make sure you join at least the free Discord to stay up to date on everything that's happening with the community. And if you want to go deeper and learn more about trading, if you want to learn how to analyze the news and get some perspective daily with Q&As and live trading with the Bros, go check out the Bros group as well. Description down below. That being said, we'll see you guys in the Q&A later today. Those of you who are already members, the rest of you will see you tomorrow on the channel. Have a great day.